So I look at your notes today and you suggest the worst is behind us. What makes you think that?
This is largely going unnoticed by so many people.
The thing that we're watching is the VIX spike to 60.
Before we get to Tom Lee, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Crypto's about to break through in a major way. The SEC wanted $2 billion. The SEC gets a fraction of that. Now we're seeing them subpoena others. We originally reported the news to you yesterday. There is more to the story today. Ripple's chief legal officer comes clean. This is what you should be taking away from the Ripple versus SEC verdict.
Ripple, when it was first sued by the SEC almost 4 years ago, said that we were going to defend this case not only on our own behalf, but on behalf of the entire crypto industry. This administration, with this SEC under this chair, has clearly taken an anti-crypto stance. I think they lost on everything that was important to them. Trying to establish that a token itself, in this case XRP, can be considered a security was soundly rejected by the court. And what the court said is a token is never a security in and of itself, just like a bar of gold is never a security. You can certainly package commodities or virtual currencies up and sell them as securities, but they're not securities in and of themselves. And that's the core clarity that we sought in this case. And the establishing that XRP is not in and of itself a security is the law of the land. What the judge did find is that certain historical sales, beginning around 2015, the way that those sales were packaged with sophisticated third parties, they should have been registered under the securities laws. And that's the piece of the decision that we respect. The judge rejected a $2 billion ask from the SEC because she found that Ripple didn't act recklessly. We didn't act with any intention to defraud anybody. And in fact, there were no victims. The counterparties to those transactions suffered no financial loss at all. But staying true to the law, since there was a technical violation of the failure to register those historical sales, she did impose a fine of $125 million. That's something that we will pay with cash off of our balance sheet, and we look forward to moving forward. And hopefully this turns a page not only for Ripple, but also hopefully finally this administration will turn the page on their war on crypto and hit the reset button.
So are we finally done? Well, obviously we're not done until we see a regime change. But now that the dust is settling on another major SEC loss, what comes next for crypto?
Ripple, when we were first sued in December of 2020, we said, look, we're going to defend this case not only because we think the allegations that are being made against our company are wrong-minded, and we think ultimately they're not going to be able to survive judicial scrutiny, but we're going to defend it on behalf of the entire crypto industry because we knew that we were the tip of the sword. We knew that the SEC would start with Ripple and then start working their way down and bring litigation and lawsuits and enforcement actions against the rest of the industry. I'm not sure everyone believed us 4 years ago. Everyone believes us now because that's exactly the playbook that the SEC has sought to advance. And what do we now know? We know through our case, the court has found that the SEC was not engaging in a faithful allegiance to the law. That's a quote. We know in the Bitcoin ETF case, another court found that the SEC was acting arbitrarily and capriciously. We know that there was a federal judge in Utah that sanctioned the SEC for engaging in outright fraudulent misrepresentations to the court. So this war on crypto has really skewed the SEC's core mission and skewed their commitment to kind of stick to their lanes in their jurisdiction. And what we need as a country is to hit the reset button. And what we really should be focusing on is creating clear laws, rules, and regulations so this industry can thrive in the United States, just as it is thriving outside of the United States.
So following that, here Michael Saylor perfectly explains what everybody is starting to realize about Bitcoin and what the future looks like for crypto. I've never seen Michael Saylor this excited.
Bitcoin's a solution to everybody's problem. Investors are worried about regulation, taxes, torts, and antitrust. Economists are worried about the deficit and the debt. Individuals want to deal with inflation, and they're worried about opportunity. Companies can't compete with megacorps. Those who understand Bitcoin buy Bitcoin. Those who don't criticize Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, individuals can outrun the inflation, investors can beat the market, corporations can outgrow the competition, and countries can revitalize their economies and boost their currencies by tapping into digital capital. All great empires are built on productive property that you can defend. And the Lummis Bill is our Louisiana moment. There was a time when everybody moved to the New World, and buying the New World, like Louisiana or Alaska, was a good idea. What we have right now is a race to own cyberspace. The future is digital. Bitcoin is digital. If you're worried about the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, right, what are people going to buy when they sell the dollar? They're going to buy Bitcoin. And so you should go buy the Bitcoin and wait, because hundreds of trillions of dollars of capital from all around the world are going to flow into cyberspace, to the Bitcoin network.
Before we get to Tom Lee, let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor, leading crypto company in the space, Somnia. Somnia is a 300,000 plus TPS EVM Layer 1 with interoperability protocols to unify metaverses, gaming, NFTs, and social platforms, creating a seamless, fully on-chain virtual society. You can participate in Somnia's playground now. You can jump into this, jump into their metaverse. They are in their Season 2, Part 3. You can participate in the Somnia Dream Hunt. They have a prize pool of $10,000 USDT. You would love this if you're a metaverse enthusiast, NFT collector, Web3 gamer, a normie, or part of the broader blockchain community at large. Participate in Somnia's playground now and start farming points. The Somnia Playground provides you, the content creator, with a sandbox environment, allowing you to test your ideas and creations without the need to deploy them onto server infrastructure. This rapid iteration process saves you valuable time and resources, allowing creators like us to experiment, refine, and perfect our metaverse experiences before launching them on Somnia. They have some solid features available right now and more coming soon. Participate in their 10K treasure hunt. I'm going to leave a link below. Check these guys out. And then finally, the only other question, is the worst of the market sell-off over? Is there blue skies ahead? Tom Lee, in his most recent interview, hours old, listen to what he says at the end of this.
The market's next move and whether this rebound really can be trusted. We're all wondering that, of course. So let's ask Tom Lee. He joins us now live. So I look at your notes today and you suggest the worst is behind us. What makes you think that?
Well, I think the thing that we're watching is the VIX spike to 60 on Monday, which is the third highest reading ever, and the VIX futures curve inverted, which was the steepest inversion since the pre-pandemic times. Both are starting to normalize. I think the VIX, as it closes below 20, and it hasn't closed yet, and as that VIX futures term structure uninverts, that tells us the worst of the panic is behind us. I don't think it means we won't have ripple effects, because we know there's some trapped bulls, and there's still some nervousness around Iran and how much of this yen carry trade has to unwind. But I think the worst of the selling pressure is behind us.
How do we know that we had just a growth scare and not something more dramatic to come, Tom? Never mind the unwind of the carry trade, and no one really knows whether that's over either. But when you think about those two events, what does it make you think about where we could go moving forward?
Well, I think investors, when it comes to the growth scare side, have something they can check every week, which is weekly jobless claims, because that's what was a positive surprise on Thursday, and a lot of it came from Texas. Texas had a big drop in weekly claims week over week. The fact that markets reacted so positively Thursday to that jobless claims number puts me in the camp that that's one of the big drivers, because we had a better than expected claims number and then the market popped. I think the growth scare is what's on investors' minds, and next Thursday they'll get another weekly claims number, and if that's also equally improving or stable, I think it's going to give people a lot more conviction.
What about the unwind of the carry trade? I mean, there's no real tell as to whether that's run its course, and that seems to be, the obvious catalyst at the beginning of the week for positioning being well off sides, and it just needed to correct itself. Has it finished?
Scott, that's a great question. Nobody knows how big that carry trade could be. I think there is a large insurance industry participation in that, and I did speak to some insurance executives this past week. Their view is there's a lot of financial institutions that actually implemented this trade, but if it unwinds in an orderly way, it's not disruptive. It's just that if you have weeks or days like Monday or last week, the end of last week, that's very disorderly, and that gets very expensive because these insurance companies have to take off these hedges, and then they suddenly have unhedged carry trades.
Yes, by all accounts, this recent price crash was just a bull trap. If you sold under $60,000, I'm sorry. I wish you would have been following us. I wish you would have seen this first.
Bitcoin is basically a trap. Let's check out the price action this week. It's been very volatile. This is actually a 3-month look, and you can see we just had this dip all the way down to about 48,000 there. And for me, 60,000 has been the important level to watch. And I'm going to zoom out here. I'm going to put a year-to-date chart on here, and here's the 60,000 level. We've dipped below it once, twice. And this is a third time, each time going a little bit below, but then climbing back above 60,000. These are all false breakdowns. You can call them bear traps. And it costs traders a lot of money and peace of mind. But nevertheless, that's what's happening. But another way to look at it, it's just in a little bit of a flag here from a sustained up move. That's a 1-year look, and it's even more apparent on the 5-year. So this is just a tiny little flag here in the grand scheme of things, but it's painful on a day-to-day basis. Now, when I was watching, I've been following fund flows as well. We have all these new spot Bitcoin ETFs, and not only Bitcoin, but Ether. And we've seen some really positive movements this week. I think overall, the sector was lost about $250 million or $250 billion. But when you take into consideration that a lot of that was out of the grayscale entities, you get a positive net flow for Bitcoin. So I think it's positive that we have, in the midst of all this turmoil, we still have a lot of institutional and retail interest in these funds.
Hey, make sure you subscribe to Altcoin Daily. We keep you updated on the markets on a daily basis. See you tomorrow, my friends.